welcome back to segment number 2 of Fantasy Football and Chill. We're going to be talking just about, all the different staff changes and, where all the vacant spots and how they should be filled, in our opinions. I think we're going to go ahead and start off with the Broncos hiring Sean Payton. If you're a Broncos fan, I don't understand how you couldn't love that. They did have to give up a first-round pick. Is it next year's first-round pick?
Like this year's, if that's what you're
It'll be this year's?
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, they're already super low on draft capital.
Don't forget about the second round pick for the following year too.
They gave them the 2025 or 2024 second round as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're selling hard over there. I don't know. I guess John Elway just really wants a Super Bowl or something. But obviously Sean Payton's a great coach, elite coach. When he was in his heyday, probably top 3 in the league, honestly. But we were talking about it in the group chat. Do they have, the talent on the team to make a good run? Yes. Is the AFC really hard? Yes. They definitely have some holes that need to be filled, but pause. But I think they're a talented enough team to make that decent little run. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to beat the Chiefs. They're not going to beat the Bills. They're not going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals. But they'll be a decent team, and I'm excited to see what Sean Payton can do there.
Could they beat the Chargers?
They'll win one game.
Okay.
They'll win 1 out of the 2.
1 out of 2. Split it.
Let's hear it, Jason. What do you got to say?
That's insider analysis, Jason Popman's for you, actually.
Exactly. Insider for the NFL. No, I love it. I love the hiring of Sean Payton. I personally am not a fan of giving up a first-round pick and a second. I think that's a little bit too rich for me. But, if you get Sean Payton for 10 years there, then I'm all for it. You don't think he's going to be there 10 years, Austin?
I think Sean will die after 10 years, after one of his game calls comes back.
Really? Because the last time I checked, he's only 59. So coaches tend to coach all the way into their 70s. But we'll see what happens. Pete Carroll's like 77? No?
71.
Yeah.
71? Wow. But anyways, no, I like the hire. I think, like I said, it was a little bit rich how much they gave up. But I understand it because you are in a situation where you cannot get out of Russell Wilson's contract. So it's either you got to see it all through and you're going to have a lot of shitty years with Russell Wilson, or go and get an offensive genius and bring him in there and try to fix the issues that Wilson has had. And they have a lot of talent on that offense. They have Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. Who else do they have? KJ Hamler.
Javonte Williams coming back.
Javonte Williams. So they have guys, and then they have Greg Dulcich, who is a young and upcoming tight end. They have guys for sure. And I'm a big fan of the defense. I really like can't recall his name. I'm not big on coordinators, but the coordinator for the Broncos, I know on defense, has a lot of job offers, I heard, like this offseason. Not head coaching offers, but more offers to be coordinators other places. I know Green Bay was looking into him, and I think he comes from that Vic Fangio scheme and that tree. But they have a lot of talent on that defense. They always have a good defense, and yeah, I like it. I think it might take a couple years, but I think the Broncos are trending upward.
Just to clarify, I don't even know how you say this man's name. Ejiro Evero.
Exactly. Yeah, is he a black guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
He just came over this year. He spent 5 seasons with the Rams prior to that. And to add to what Jason was saying, he was definitely the
Fangio guy, right?
I don't know if he was a Fangio guy. I can look that up right now.
I think he was a Fangio tree.
But what's called again? I'm just more impressed about the fact that he was really the bright light, the shining star for that team. Like, don't get me wrong, that defense, phenomenal. They have a lot of skill players. They have great players all around. But it feels like there's a lot of teams that have like that kind of talent that don't have the ability to kind of make them a cohesive unit. And I mean, he did a great job throughout the year. But nonetheless, he's actually interviewing for the Colts. So that's a team.
Good coach job.
Yeah, we were talking about teams that have
Wow.
vacancies, and we'll jump more into the Cardinals and the Colts later. But he's definitely one of the names that are front running for that spot. But regarding Sean Payton, I mean, he's a phenomenal coach. But I have one question with him. Do you think Sean Payton, and not to disrespect how great of a coach he was, but do you think Sean Payton and Drew Brees kind of bounced off of each other's kind of talents, or do you think one carried the other?
I don't think there was any carrying. I think it was that Drew Brees was a good quarterback and Peyton made him a great quarterback. And I think that Peyton is a very, very good offensive mind. I think one of the best in the league, and he always seems to have. I mean, at least like recently, the last 5 years or so, he's turned that defense around. Um, yeah, so I think it's a combination of both, but I think it's more Sean Payton than it is Drew Brees.
Could you give us an idea, or anybody, what Sean Payton's going to bring to this Broncos team that they desperately need on the offensive side? And I understand you can't really just cop out and say like offense. Obviously, we understand that, but what kind of scheme or what kind of idea do you think Sean Payton's going to bring to this team that's going to allow Russell Wilson to kind of maybe be the guy he used to be back in Seattle?
West Coast offense. So all the teams run with great quarterbacks. That's what Green Bay ran with Rodgers. That's what Kansas City runs with um, Mahomes. I mean, they run more of like a spread coast, which is like a combination of a spread and a West Coast. But yeah, West Coast offense. That's what they're going to bring, and they're going to let Wilson. They're going to load Wilson up with weapons, and they're going to let him throw the ball. A lot of perimeter, a lot of throws on the outside, a lot of
Let the
quick throws.
quarterback play.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they should do with Rodgers and Green Bay.
I would say Russell needs to get better, though. I think that's the missing piece. I think they had everything around him in the right spot. The defense, losing the running back hurt them, but they still had a decent backup running back and two backup running backs. And then Chase Edmonds there now, isn't he?
Yeah, it's kind of irrelevant. A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he's on a star, but Javante there, I think, is going to be
Yeah. So, like, when they get him back, but I do think with Sean, that's a great hire. I think I agree with everything you guys have said. And I would just push that Russell needs to be better, especially like if you're going to have that West Coast offense, if he's going to sit in that pocket and make passes. He made some really horrendous throws this year and looked confused, didn't know. He did not look like a quarterback that knew how to throw a football, in my opinion. Very frustrating, like decisions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think if he plays well, they'll be fine. And I think he needs to elevate his game for that contract to work out and for that team to work out.
I think that, moving to a different team, he hadn't had to learn a new playbook in, I don't know, how long
10
was he on
plus
the
years.
Seahawks? Yeah,
He was-
12 years, 11 years. And so, I mean, he got to the Broncos and, started doing Subway commercials and TikToks and forgot to read the playbook. And, that's what happens. You get confused.
Josh, that might be an interesting take, to say the least. I
Subway
understand that
commercials and TikTok.
he definitely did both of those things, but I don't know if that necessarily meant he neglected his duties. But moving on to the other large hire, or we'll define as a large hire, an interesting one nonetheless, D'Amico Ryan going to the Texans. And I'm going to start us off on this one because I think it's quite an interesting hire, because I feel like the Texans, in my eyes, don't necessarily need a defensive mind operating through them. Now, don't get me wrong, D'Amico Ryan definitely did a great job for the 49ers defense this year, and I feel like he might be the leading piece that the Texans definitely need. But in my eyes, I feel like they kind of need somebody who, because the Texans seem like they're going to fire anybody if they don't turn their operation around within a year or a year and a half. And when you're on such a strict schedule, I feel like you have to bring such an amazing change, and they desperately need offensive power. However, that being said, they did play a lot of teams tough this year. So maybe next year might be a turning point, maybe with the new addition of a quarterback. Who knows? But I don't know if D'Amico Ryan is necessarily the perfect fit for this team. I think he's going to be a great head coach. I just don't know if this team's going to be the perfect like spot to land in. But that's just an opinion. I'll pass it on to whoever may want to add in something after.
I'm not huge on it, and I like D'Amico. I think he's a very, very. I mean, he showed to be a very good, great defensive coordinator and defensive mind. And part of me questions, okay, how much did he pull? I guess like all the stuff that he was running with San Fran this year. How much was that from Robert, who's in New York now? Um, yeah, I mean, his resume looks amazing, and he played middle linebacker, right? You guys know for Houston, correct?
Let's look it up.
Yeah, pretty sure he was middle
Sure.
linebacker, and he was a captain on the team. So I mean, he has a resume. But my problem that I have is you are likely going to be drafting Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or whoever they want. I'm going to say Bryce Young. Why in the hell would you hire a defensive minded coach? Every single team in the NFL right now that has an elite quarterback, they all have offensive minded coaches. And the ones that have defensive minded coaches tend to not get the most out of their offense and their quarterback. I don't like it. I think it's an offensive driven league. I think they'll be fine because I think he's a leader and he'll do great on the defense, but I don't like it. Not when you're bringing in a rookie quarterback.
I agree. I think that they're trying to protect their investment a little bit with Stingley, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not entirely. I mean, D'Amico is a good coach, but I agree that that probably wasn't the move for them. But I also think that they're really in a rebuild phase here. Don't expect next year to be a complete flip turnaround because they get Bryce Young and the new
No
head
one did.
coach. Yeah, I'm just saying, but like
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
they're gonna do. I think you have to expect them to do better. I say like maybe 6, 7 wins, something like that, which would be pretty somewhat impressive compared to the season they just had. But yeah, I don't think it's gonna be like any immediate turnaround thing like what we saw with Jacksonville or something like that, unless they just go out and get a lot of studs to surround Bryce Young or CJ or Will Levis, whoever they get. But yeah, I'm not super big on it.
That's
Gabe,
okay. Do you want to take it
got
over?
any got any opinions on it, Gabe?
I think you guys have great points, and everything was well said. I think, like you said, if you're going to bring in a rookie quarterback this year, drafting a rookie, I think you need to have someone that's ready to like propel him into the league and give him an offensive mindset. Explain to him what the NFL is about on the offensive side of things. So yeah, I don't think they're going to turn around this next year. I think that's expected. I think that's just probably you're not going to be able to flip a team like that. And as we've talked about with that hire, you can't expect that either, especially with a rookie quarterback, a young quarterback, and a team that's kind of like you said rebuilding. So we'll just see, and I think there'll just be kind of an average team this next year.
Do you think that because of the defensive-minded coach and because of the decent amount of quarterbacks in this draft, do you think that maybe they surprise us and go Will Anderson in number 2 or Jalen Carter, or and then maybe go like Anthony Richardson in the second, or you know Hendon Hooker in the second or third or something like that? Do you think that happens?
Who is their quarterback right now? I honestly couldn't.
Davis Mills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Terrible. He's not like the worst quarterback, but he's
Yeah.
bottom, like he's towards the end of the starting 32.
I was gonna say, so it's like if they think they can survive with him for another year, maybe they don't like these quarterbacks in this draft. I don't know what they're saying in their draft room and between their in the office, but yeah, I mean, depends on what they feel like they have now, and then if they feel like they need to get somebody, they'll go get somebody, and then it would be a very interesting take, especially with him now kind of sitting down in that office with all those coaches being like, I want this guy type of thing, and starts throwing his opinion across the table. You could see that happening. That could be a very interesting play. I think it's hard though, especially if you're not a coach. You want to be like, you should be rooting for your team and like you kind of want to have your fans excited about your team. I think fans are ready for another quarterback type of thing. If you go the opposite direction, probably get some initial backlash. So I'll be curious to see that. I think they could just be very interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, Josh, I think to answer your question, I think the writing's on the wall. You don't get to pick like this early in the draft that often. I mean, unless you're like Chicago, but a team like the Texans, a team like the Texans, they were just in the playoffs a few years ago. You know, when they had Deshaun and they had DeAndre Hopkins and they had JJ Watt. These fans know what it's like to win. Like, not this franchise hasn't been around that long, I believe. When were they added? They were added in like the early 2000s, late 90s.
They were the Oilers beforehand.
Okay, so never mind. But what I want to say is I think the writing's on the wall. I want to say I think the writing's on the wall because you saw how fast and desperately they got rid of a guy like Lovie Smith. So they obviously are impatient. And if you're impatient, you're not going to go and draft a corner or an edge guy or an interior D lineman that's, you know, only going to help you so much immediately. You're going to go out and you're going to get a top quarterback. So I'd be blown away if the Bears did not pick a quarterback at 1 and then Houston didn't pick a quarterback. I'm not saying the Bears are going to. I'm just saying the first 2 picks in the draft, if there were no quarterbacks taken, I'd be pretty shocked.
Yeah.
You don't see that happen that often.
That's a topic for another time as far as the Bears, but I think they'll trade their pick. But I think at some point, and you're right though, as far as being impatient and wanting to win now, is you got to take a second and look who is the best player. You know, not who do we need. And you know, Bryce Young's the best quarterback, but then you compare him to Will Anderson, who is phenomenal, 5-star, which I'm not saying Bryce Young isn't, but I think that Will is a better player overall than Bryce Young. And I don't know, maybe they value that, maybe they don't.
Okay, well, you can say that Justin Jefferson's a better player than Joe Burrow, but that draft, you're gonna take Joe Burrow over Justin every day.
I wouldn't say Justin Jefferson's better than Joe Burrow.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at like positional rankings, you can make the argument. I think they're pretty even. I would say Jefferson's probably top 3 receiver, and I would say Burrow's probably top 3 quarterback, not receiver, quarterback.
Yeah. But as far as impact on a team,
obviously Burrow. But that's what I'm saying is that if you have, we'll say that what's his name, Anderson, the edge guy. Yeah. You could say that he is like the better prospect, and he might have a better combine grade, and he might be the better overall player day 1. But you're taking an elite quarterback over an elite edge guy every day of the week, especially if your franchise doesn't have. I mean, they have nobody on that roster right now. Derek Stingley is probably their best player, or Dameon Pierce.
I want to throw in a quick
Tunsil getting thrown.
Larry Tunsil too, but yeah. I'm talking about more like skill players.
Okay.
But
I want to throw in a quick wrinkle. So, kind of like what Josh was saying, if the Bears trade up a pick, what are you doing as the Texans if someone jumps up in front of you, takes a quarterback off the board? Are you saying, crap, we need to grab a quarterback?
So are you saying like if Indy trades up to 1 and then they take Bryce Young?
Yeah, like a little interesting wrinkle there.
Yeah. See, that's a tough one because I'm not in there. I don't know like what they have on the draft board, like where they have guys like, I don't know how close they have guys like CJ Stroud and Bryce Young, but if they feel that CJ Stroud is like a 1, Bryce Young's like a 1A and CJ Stroud's a 2A, then I can see them taking a guy like Stroud. But if they feel like Bryce Young is just levels above everyone else as far as like quarterbacks, then you probably take best player available. You go get a guy like Will Anderson or a Jalen Carter.
I agree.
Dude,
Let's hear what you got to say, Austin. You had some emotions going on.
Dude, I had so many comments during that whole thing. Dude, first and foremost, Justin Jefferson had the number 1 receiving season this year, and I feel like you can make an argument for Tyreek, but Joe Burrow definitely didn't have the number 1 quarterback season. So I was like, yes, you might say that quarterbacks are a higher value, but Justin Jefferson did that with Kirk. So like I feel like we have to give him. We have
Would
to give
you
him his
put
flowers.
JJ over Devontae? You'd put him over Devontae and Tyreek right now? 'Cause
So
I wouldn't.
that's where I feel like it's hard to make that kind of statement because Jay Jettas is super young. But I feel like if
Fair.
I had to forecast him in these next 5 years, I think he will do better than those two in my eyes, just because of longevity.
Devontae is going to be on the couch in 5 years.
Okay, well let's say
It's
three
like
then.
31.
Let's say three, or we can make it two. I think Justin
Okay.
Jefferson will realistically have a better season than both of those guys, and I really think it's just because he's just a fresh face. He's super young, and I think the kid's ceiling hasn't even been hit, and that's what's amazing to me.
Okay.
Like
I have one problem with that.
what's up?
But finish what you're going to say because I don't want to cut you off.
So like I feel like the sky's the limit for that kid, and I feel like that's something we kind of have to attribute to, and I'll like tag onto my other points in a moment, but
Okay, so the one problem that I have with that is for receivers, like yeah, stats definitely matter, but I think tape matters more for sure. I mean, people were calling Devontae the best receiver in the league when he had 1,300 yards, and then there was guys I don't recall who because this was a few years ago. I want to say like Hopkins who had like 17 or 1,800 that year, and I think like a lot of these experts, because let's be real, we're not watching the all 22 film of all these receivers every week, but the experts watch the film and they're breaking down what these guys are doing. And then they kind of they talk about these guys more. And then we hear it and we start to say, oh, yeah, Devontae is the best in the game, right? I still think if you watch the film and you watch the games, I think Devontae is a better receiver. I don't think it's by much, but I think he's better. And I still think Tyreek is a better receiver. And I've always loved and valued how much Tyreek brings to an offense just because he opens up so much with his speed and his elite route running.
I think that that's kind of also attributed to history, and I feel like that's kind of what we aren't giving to Justin right now, because again, like Devontae's earned that rep, and he didn't earn it in his first year, he didn't earn it in his second, he didn't earn it in his fourth, he earned it in his sixth or seventh. Tyreek, I mean, he came out of the gate running, but he definitely wasn't as notable until his third or fourth year. And so again, like to
Fair.
me, you can make the point that he's not the best right now, but what I was saying is I think he's forecasting to continue to grow, and these guys are obviously going to continue to deteriorate
I agree.
just because of age.
Yeah.
But I think Justin Jefferson might not have as crisp a route running, but he's damn near a great route runner.
No, his route running is elite. Like
Yeah.
I think kind of like what you were saying, I think JJ and Jamar are going to take over the league. And I'm probably missing another young receiver, but I think those two are going to take over the league. And yeah, I mean, they're the future for sure. That's
Yeah,
kind of
so-
what Odell and Jarvis could have been, but never really turned
But
out to be.
all I was saying is about you saying, would I take Justin Jefferson over Joe Burrow? Is no, because Joe Burrow led his team, not that great of a team either, to a Super Bowl in his second year. You know, you can't replace that with. I don't care how many records Justin Jefferson breaks, he's not going to take that team to the Super Bowl because that's kind of out of his control. You can't throw and catch the ball.
Yeah, and he can't get open against Jair.
Yeah.
Got locked up.
Let's
Locked
be
up.
realistic, but like
He had one catch.
we'll move along from that point. But no, I think that, as you said, quarterback is an extremely valuable position that is irreplaceable on the field. And you can always do other things to kind of screw over your position, your skill players, but not your quarterback, truthfully. But jumping into the fact of, I think we were talking about, what were we talking about? It was something about trades regarding the Texans.
Yeah,
trading out.
Yeah, to me, I think that the Texans are in complete desperate need of a quarterback, and I feel like a lot of teams, this might be just like, I'm not going to like pull out a lot of statistics necessarily to this, but I feel like a lot of teams, when they get a new quarterback or a new coach in the front office, they like to draft a quarterback with them. I feel like there's a lot of, like, Matt Nagy ended up drafting, you have Matt Nagy drafting Mitch, which I'm not going to use that as a great reference, but that's just a person.
You see that picture today I sent?
Which
of Mahomes?
one? Yeah.
Mahomes saying the Bears were going to take him?
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about that because that's just going to make me upset.
Good.
We have, like, Zach Wilson getting drafted by Robert Saleh, and so, like, those are two very poor choices, first and foremost. So DeMeco Ryan's not looking in great company, but the point I'm getting to is the fact that I feel like a lot of quarterbacks get drafted the same year that the defensive coordinator, or I'm sorry, the new head coach comes in. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans do a similar thing because they want to have somebody to align with their goal and their idea of what they want to scheme. And so I feel like it's inevitable for them to pull a quarterback off the board. And I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they were the willing ones to jump up if they felt so inclined to get one of the top two guys. But moving along from that, I don't want to dance too much unless you guys have a comment to that. Because if you don't, let's kind of talk about how Frank Wright ended up as a Panther, and then let's talk about the vacancies and the opportunities for some players to end up there or coaches. So, as I just alluded to, Frank Wright is now a Panther. He was a former Colts head coach that got fired, I want to say halfway through this season. And what's you guys' thoughts on that? I think it's a pretty solid hire in my personal opinion.
Yeah, former quarterback of the Panthers back when they started, and I don't know. So he's probably, he's a liked face around Charlotte, and none of the players know him. Probably none of the coaches know him, as far as used to play with him or anything like that. But um, I don't know. I think he's going to be like a consistent guy. He's not going to. Once again, I don't expect a quick turnaround for that team. Um, Also, another team that's really needing a quarterback. Will they go quarterback in the first round? Who knows? But I don't know. I think that hiring is pretty decent, but I don't know. I don't think it's anything special.
Cade, you want to go?
I'll just go quick because I don't have much to say. I don't know much about the Panthers and whatever else, and I don't really have that much of an opinion on what they have going on there. They don't really matter to me in a way. So good luck with, in a way, good luck to them, and
Wow.
wish them the best. I don't know, like yeah.
I appreciate the transparency.
Okay.
Hobby franchise.
Yeah, so I think the Frank Wright hire, he goes all the way back to Philly. A lot of people forget that he was the head coach. I mean, the offensive coordinator when they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles. And a lot of people thought that he was the mastermind behind that offense and that Doug Peterson was a shitty coach. But I think it's kind of showing maybe Doug Peterson wasn't the issue and maybe he was more the mastermind. But I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted because I thought Frank Reich was, an elite offensive coordinator. But then his time in Indy was okay. It wasn't terrible. It was okay. They did make the playoffs a couple times. But yeah, I'm not sure how to feel about it. I like the hire. I don't love it, but I do like it.
Yeah, nothing to write home about.
I feel like Frank Wright has kind of been surrounded by mid to average tier quarterbacks to every place he lands to, and it blows my mind on how he just cannot seem to escape guys who just don't have a top tier talent. Like he just jumped from the Eagles, who at that point had Carson Wentz and Nick Foles, and then he jumps to Indianapolis where no, I mean, yeah, he jumped to Sam Darnold, but I'm talking about how like we went through the entire rotation of Colts quarterbacks, and it's been a hefty ride of veterans, and then he goes to another fresh face, and it's just like we're truly going to see how talented of a offensive coordinator, kind of a genius mind he could be when he's in this situation. So it should be interesting.
Question for you, Austin, or everybody can answer. So if you're Frank Wright and you have the 9th pick in the draft this year, who are you taking? Quarterback?
I don't think you take quarterback.
Anthony Richardson, the next.
I think that's a little early for him. I feel like he's like a late first round, early second. Sure, like so far, we got to see the combine and everything. But
yeah, I was about to say, I think the combine's going to play a really heavy factor in his value because of how athletic he is.
Oh yeah, he's freaky.
He's going to run fast. He's going to do well in all the drills. And that's definitely going to blow some minds. I think he's going to go earlier than we think. But I think they should get quarterback. Sam Darnold's, he's not that guy. No quarterback on that. PJ Washington's not that guy. Who they start this year? Baker Mayfield. He's not even there anymore. So
well, then he got traded.
Right.
And they got Matty Corral.
I think they should go quarterback. Will they? Probably not. They'll probably go tackle or something again.
What about Will
And,
Levis? You guys like Will Levis to Carolina? He's got a big cannon for an arm.
I don't think he'll drop that far.
I haven't
No, I'm saying
watched
like
any.
a trade up.
Yeah,
Like a trade
I haven't
up.
watched any film on him, so I really don't.
Dude
can't
has
say.
he has the
I
cannon.
saw,
like
I
him.
saw something the other day about him.
So did
I
Zach
think
Wilson.
today that Will Levis is not the quarterback that people are making him out to be. I don't remember exactly what he said and points or evidence. I just
Who's the source? Just curious, like who was the reporter?
Trust me, bro.
it was through TikTok. I was scrolling and it was somebody notable at least, and he was
Okay,
just
that's fair.
talking about his college career and how he's kind of hidden behind certain things, this and that. I honestly wasn't really locked into it. I just wanted to say that I did see people are kind of, at least one person that's somewhat notable, saying Will Levis might not be all that, which is interesting to me.
No, it's good to know for sure.
Yeah. So
And I think the thing about Will Levis is I'm not going to act like I've sat here and watched every Kentucky game, let alone a handful. But the thing that these coaches fall in love with, and I like about him, is he's got a cannon for an arm, and I think everyone's like looking for that next Mahomes or Josh Allen type quarterback.
mm-hmm.
You know,
That's always a faulty thing to fall on. It's always
well, you can't teach it. You can't teach throw power. It's
No.
very, very valuable too.
But that's where I feel like I don't want to dive too deep into this, but I feel like that's where a lot of people get kind of like starry eyes, rose-colored glasses, because they're so fixated on such a great gifted talent that they forget that these guys had 4+ years to figure out how to read defenses and choose to just rely on arm talent. So I mean, they could always change. The NFL is obviously a learning place as well, but I just
Ohio State quarterback.
I'm not going to disagree with these claims.
I'm just saying.
I won't disagree. Like throwing to a dude wide open isn't much of a talent either. But my point is, it's easy to fall in love with an arm, but it's a lot harder to teach a man how to read defenses to the degree of that. So I feel like that's where you're going to see if he's truly that capable. Because if he is, he could take that next step. I'm not going to doubt how great of a player
We
I
don't know
him.
You know,
Exactly.
I don't know his flaws. You guys don't know his flaws. I don't believe so.
I mean, yeah, that's what blows everyone away. People saw, Zach Wilson throwing 40-yard bombs flat-footed at pro day, and you're like, oh, he's worthy of a second round pick, or second overall pick in the draft. He's just like Mitch Trubisky. I mean, all these guys go to really small schools. Obviously, Bama didn't see something in him, didn't see anything in Mitch Trubisky. Georgia didn't see anything in Zach Wilson. That's why they end up at these small schools, and because they do have talent, but they like Austin said, they can't read defenses. They don't know the playbook, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then you end up with Mitch Trubisky.
That's a great point to end on.
So I don't know how Trubisky even got drafted at number 2. He did not have that great of a college career.
No, he did not.
No,
but
he had an arm.
But wrapping this up, we're about to hop into our last segment of today, which is going to be talking about what teams should be like looking towards, or what game plans they should have for a more successful